I wrote the book in 1966, and the film was made in 73. And here we are 30 years later, and I think it's every bit as powerful, if not more so, than it was when I first did it.
I'm gonna name my last album "The Spook" to Sat by the Door. You know what I mean? When I finished my situation with our partnership at Atlantic, and for anybody that ain't seen that book, seen that movie or read the book, it's about a gang member from Chicago who presented himself in a way he never caught no cases. He had a clean cut look, and he infiltrated the CIA.
Yep.
And he became educated and basically he used their agenda, which was to have a token nigga in the CIA for political reasons. You know, we gonna speak blunt, fuck it. He used it against him. And I think that in terms of hip hop, you think of the message that they embrace, I feel parallel with, like, you know what I mean, the power structure. I don't mean the culture of hip hop, but the power structure of music. They got prescribed personas they expect from us. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the way he used their intention against him was one of my underlying strategies.
I wouldn't give a damn if nobody white ever read my book. If they do, I want them to pay for it and get my royalties. And if they get something out of it, I say, fine. But my audience is not white. I don't write for black bourgeois intellectuals. I write for the people on the block where I live.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me.
The Spook, Who Sat by the Door. The controversial best-selling novel now becomes a shocking screen reality. The story of the first black agent in the CIA.
Whoever they select will be the best-known spy since 007.
Their first mistake was letting him in.
And let me congratulate you on being the first Negro officer in the Central Intelligence Agency.
Their worst mistake was letting him out.
You really want to mess with Whitey? I can show you how.
For 5 years, he was their token Negro.
Freeman, you people must serve.
For 5 years, he kept his cool.
Man, you just don't belong. I think you'd be happier with a mop in your hands. Like your mama.
And in return, they taught him how to spy, how to fight, how to kill. For 5 years, he was the spook who sat by the door. And then he turned gangs of ghetto kids into a highly trained guerrilla army.
We live off the land. We match technology with spontaneity and improvisation. Men against machines, brains against computers. Now, if you don't think it can work, you check out Algeria, Kenya, Korea, and Vietnam. Can you dig it?
He turned a summer riot into a revolution.
This is not about hate white folks. It's about loving freedom enough to die or kill for it if necessary.
He turned the American dream into a nightmare. Yesterday, a novel. Today, a movie. The Spook Who Sat by the Door.
And the mayor's office is now air-conditioned, courtesy of the Black Freedom Fighters of Chicago.
I want people to think. And out of thought, concerned action. You don't act first and then think. You think first and then act. That's why we were given brains. That's why we don't act instinctively. And when we do, we're wrong. Whichever way they go, I want them to think about what I've had to say. I'm not trying to recruit anybody. I'm not trying to proselytize. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I want to shake up the mind. I want people to look at that movie and go out of there thinking. And I think I've accomplished that purpose.
All right. Y'all know what time it is? It's time to close out this story, chapter 19 and 20 of this dope novel written by Sam Greenlee called The Spook Who Sat by the Door. It's been a wild ride in terms of the story. Great story. We have reached the end of this book, and it's been a great ride so far. Like I said, a lot of suspense. Everything's been leading up to this moment. It got to popping off at the end of chapter 18, where we last left off, where they finally, they being the city of Chicago, finally let the National Guard into the city because of the rioting after the young boy was killed by the police. And Dan Freeman's group, the Black Freedom Fighters of Chicago, got their first mission in terms of combat, which was to take out that platoon of National Guard soldiers that was there. And they did it real swiftly, organized. Excuse me. And then they, like the chapter ends saying, they disappeared right into the shadows of the alley and left their bodies for the rats. And as the last soldier they killed, when asked why, repeatedly asked why, he was told, because we at war, letting them know that they had not started the war, but they were now trained up and prepared to engage in it. So Brother Reggie Owens is in the building, Brother Andrew Charles is in the building, whoever else is watching in the background, whoever's listening and on the replay. Salute to everybody. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And let me go ahead and let Reggie Owens say what's up to y'all as I get ready to read.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Always with the great elaborate breakdowns, man. And man, thank y'all for tuning in. And we're in the final 2 chapters of this amazing book. And for those who've seen the film, I know this book is right on point with, well, the director of the film is right on point with what's coming from this book. And if you haven't seen the film, go watch it after you complete listening, you know, the completion of our reading here. Check out the book.
Indeed that, and it'll be that much more enjoyable now that you've listened to the story in the book as told by the book. So without further ado, we about to get right back in and close this thing out. The Spook Who Sat by the Door by Sam Greenlee, chapter 19. Colonel Evans had been relieved of his command after his kidnapping, although the newspaper indicated he was recovering from injuries received during his heroic escape from his hoodlum captors. The president, acting on request from the governor of Illinois and the mayor of Chicago, ordered a brigade of the 82nd Airborne Division airlifted from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, to Chicago to relieve the National Guard unit. Brigadier Scott, commander of the Airborne Brigade, met with Lieutenant Colonel Jensen, acting commander of the National Guard unit of occupation, in the Guard's headquarters for a debriefing session. "Damn it, Colonel," said the brigadier. "You mean military troops can suffer the kind of casualties you've taken from a bunch of unorganized hoodlums?" "It's far worse than that, sir," replied Jensen. "Someone has trained those bastards, and they've been trained well. And they have military weapons, most of them automatic. How could they get their hands on weapons of that kind?" "It must be the gang who robbed the National Guard armory," said a quietly dressed civilian who had been allowed to attend the briefing. "There was no publicity because the press agreed to a blackout while we investigated. They have a pretty good arsenal, M14 and 16 rifles and ammo, grenades and launchers, communications equipment, the works. In the crowded slums where they operate and you can't use your heavy weapons, they can match your firepower. The sons of bitches, said Brigadier Greenlee. And we thought it would be another operation like Detroit last summer. What kind of tactics are they using, Colonel? Hit and run attacks and ambushes. They won't stand and fight. Usually groups of from 5 to 8 operating in tandem, each with a section leader and the entire unit command by one man. They demonstrate knowledge of fire and maneuver, small unit tactics, and seem well disciplined. The commies must be at the bottom of this. Where else could they get that kind of training? You're probably right, General Scott said the civilian. I'm certain the Russians have smuggled in one or more of their top agitprop agents, and I'm requesting counterinsurgency teams from Washington today. Agitprop, agitation and propaganda experts in the creation of chaos, insurgency, and revolution. They wouldn't dare, said the colonel. That's what he said about the Cuban missiles. The brigadier turned to his adjutant. I want the patrols doubled tonight. Weapons on full automatic, and the orders are to shoot anything moving after curfew. Shoot to kill. The members of Freeman's recruitment and training cells have been organizing and training units in 12 major cities since the first of the year. Freeman considered 9 of the underground units combat ready, the remaining 3 marginal. He ordered operations in Chicago reduced to harassment and ordered his 12 other units into action. He awaited the effects of his escalation of the war. They had left during the bitter cold of early January. The quick-witted hustlers of the gang, those most likely to think or just survive on many ghetto streets. They were to submerge themselves in new identities, establish a cover and recruit, organize, and train those street gangs in their new cities where most like the Cobras of Chicago. They left with sealed orders for a temporary destination within a 200-mile radius of Chicago. The orders indicated their new area of operation and contained cash, various documents of identification, and the name of a bank where funds could be drawn under their new names. They moved into the teeming ghettos, their new homes, each a seed of rebellion planted in fertile soil. Freeman had patiently built up an intelligence network, bus and taxi drivers, the drivers of mail trucks, postmen, delivery and messenger boys, anyone who would be able to circulate freely after the riots had begun. Garbage men, street cleaners. He recruited 6 medical units. He recruited 6 medical students, 2 interns, and a young surgeon, plus 8 trained nurses. He was extremely careful in attempting to recruit anyone from the black middle class, but found to his surprise that a growing number shared the attitudes of their less fortunate black brothers.
He felt that if the Ku Klux Klan could infiltrate the Chicago police force, there was no reason the Cobras couldn't as well. In a short time, he recruited 6 uniformed policemen and 2 detectives. He still hoped to recruit Dawson as his chief double agent and second in command. He knew that inevitably the cumbersome bureaucratic machinery of the nation's law enforcement agencies will begin their search to destroy him. The general personally accompanied the CIA counterinsurgency teams to Chicago to supervise the setup of their operation. Shortly after arrival, shortly after arrival, he met with the hand-picked members of the group, codenamed Operation Law and Order. It will be SOP for this kind of operation: infiltrate a paid informer, identify and place on our payroll a defector as a double agent, divide, confuse, bore from within. Our primary target is their leader, undoubtedly a Soviet professional. Cut off the head and the snake will die. Whoever he is, we should give the man due professional credit for organizing ignorant slum dwellers into a fighting unit as effective as so far proven. Until we crush this insurgency, we operate around the clock. 3 evenings later, Freeman received a phone call at his apartment. It was a vaguely familiar woman's voice who asked if she could come to his apartment within the hour, but refused her name. She said that it was urgent. By now, Freeman was operating under strict security measures. He assumed that all except public phones chosen at random were bugged. He made standard checks for a tail whenever he went to a rendezvous, which could not be explained by his normal duties with the Foundation. He therefore regarded the mysterious call with suspicion. He took out a Colt Woodsman 22 caliber, checked the mechanisms, and loaded the clip. He generally mistrusted automatics and never left a clip fully loaded so as not to weaken the spring. He slid the clip into the butt, jacked around into the chamber, made sure the safety was on, and sat listening to music while he awaited the arrival of his visitor. A half hour later, the bell rang. He walked to the door of his apartment, pressed the buzzer to let the visitor in from the outer hall. He checked the door to make sure that no one was already waiting for him, and then didn't crack it enough to see the elevator. He held the gun at his side, the safety on, but ready to fire. The elevator stopped at his floor, and the door opened. She stepped out and looked for the number of his apartment, then approached his door. Freeman slid the coat behind a good bookcase near the door, then opened it wide to greet her. He noticed how well the red dress went with the rich black of her skin. "I'll be damned," he said. It's the Doheny Queen." He opened the door wide as he smiled in greeting and stepped back to let her enter. She walked down the short hallway to the living room, turned to the middle of the room to smile at him shyly. She wore her hair natural, kinky, and the same short length all around her head. No straightening iron, no oil. There were large gold hooped earrings that emphasized the beauty of her slim long neck. She wore no lipstick, just a touch of makeup to bring out the almond shape of her eyes. "Baby, you're beautiful. Sit down and let me fix you a drink. Johnny Walker Black Label, isn't it? I'll be right back, and then you'll have to tell me what you've been doing since the last time I saw you and what you're doing here in Chicago." He returned with the drinks, then moved to the stereo. "Let's see if I can remember the jams you dig. So what are you doing here, and how did you find me?" Freeman was on guard because he had never told her his name She never had asked it. They hadn't that kind of arrangement. Then he remembered she did know his name. They had been stopped in Washington one night by a cop, and there had been the usual scene. He had to show Freeman himself, as far more important, Freeman's woman, that Freeman simply did not count as a man. Freeman had endured it until the policeman threatened to search her, and he had to intervene, showing him his ID. Until then, she had known him only as Dan, and she had wondered aloud why a District of Columbia cop would call any Negro Mr. Freeman, sir. Well, I got to be here in Chicago for a few days, and I thought I'll look you up and say hello. There ain't that many Freemans in the books with your first name, and I got you the third time around. You know, you used to talk about Chicago all the time. Never could figure out if it drug you or you dug the place. Seems sometime like both scenes. I ain't hustling no more. Got me a sponsor. Turned me on to a down pad out in Northeast DC, and he sponsors the whole scene. I even save bread out of what he lays on me, and I got a part interest in a bar.
When the scene is over, I won't have to hustle no more. Bought a little property too. Oh, he a good trick, honey. And not too bad for an au fait. She paused and looked directly at him. You know him? You used to work with him. Freeman sipped his drink and looked at her, saying nothing. He's out here to step on the freedom fighters and the cat that started it all. Let's dance, baby. He moved to the amplifier and turned the volume up. Then brought her to the center of the room, holding her close, his mouth close to her ear. If the room is bugged, they won't pick us up from here, not with the music. All right, he said. Run it on down. I figured you might know some of these cats and they'd want to know what's happening downtown. He held her a bit more tightly. He wondered if he would have to kill her. Had she guessed anything on her own, or had she been sent to him? What makes you think I might know any of the FF? Okay, maybe you don't, but you could get the word out. You know the city, and I don't. You're the only one I know here, and they need to know. Why are you sticking your neck out? She leaned away from him and gazed at him fiercely. I'm black, ain't I? He nodded and pulled her back into his arms. Who's this cat I'm supposed to have worked with for? The general. You know who he is, and you know what he does. He thinks he's pretty cool, but he talk more than he think. Of course, he don't think I got enough brains to know what's going on, but a little piece here, a little piece there, put it together, and you got something. She described the general. There was no doubt that she knew him. Met him at this big place, some big brass from the Pentagon over on the Tidewater. They had a lot of chicks out, every kind, every color. The Pentagon cats pretty freakish. Everybody in DC know that. Great big pad, swim pool, boat, place to shoot guns and shit everywhere. About a dozen whores and maybe 5 or 6 studs. The general was there, and we spent all the time together. He dug my action, and he got a big thing for dark meat. He a little bit freakish, but nothing really way out. He's been my sponsor ever since. Almost a year now. Well, baby, he really flipping out about these black freedom fighters. Thinks it's a communist scene. They want to find the Ofe behind it and the head nigga and stomp on them. Ain't gonna be no arrest and trial if they get him. Yeah, baby, you work for him? For a long time. And I didn't think so. He talk about you all the time. You know, you his nigga. First time he call your name, I think he talking about you, but the cat he talking about ain't nothing like I knew you. Then it started adding up. Must be the same cat. Chicago, same looks, live in the same place. I looked you up in the phone book after that time, and the fuzz stopped us, and you lived out in Anacostia, but I didn't call you. Didn't think you dig that. But I just want to know where you live. Anyway, after a while, I knew it the same cat. You got to be putting one of us on, and it got to be the general. If you come on like a Tom all the time, you got to have a reason. Never knew you to do nothing without, you just what you want and why. So that's how I know how to find you and why I think you hit the cats the general wants to waste. He had her describe the setup as best she could. He could fill up the gaps. It was a typical stakeout, a bit more elaborate than most. It had manpower, communications, weapons, and from her description of the few she had seen, some of their top agents. And they would have more money than anyone else in the game. They always had bread, and sometimes they got lazy because they had. But they wouldn't be lazy now. Hunting down niggas would be a new scene. Who's in charge? I don't know, she said. He ain't here yet. Coming in from overseas in a couple days. General says he the best agent they got. Talk about him a lot. I'll try to find out. No. You better not see me again. Unless I get to Washington sometime. Maybe one of these days. He looked at her. Don't go square now on me. One thing you don't need is a whore. Even the ex-whore. They continued to dance, and he questioned her through Sonny Stitt and half of Ray Charles. Finally, he was satisfied, and they turned to the couch, and he freshened their drinks. She turned on the couch to look at him. I don't have to go home tonight. He reached out slowly and touched her hair. Baby, he said, ain't that kinky stuff pretty?
Chapter 20. Oakland boo first, then Los Angeles, then leapfrogging the continent, Harlem, and South Philadelphia. After years of prying conspiracy, the witch hunters found, to their horror, there was a conspiracy afoot among the black masses. Every city with a ghetto wondered if they might be next. The most powerful nation in history stood on the brink of panic and chaos. The freedom fighters fought first the police, then the National Guard, and finally, the elite troops of the Army and Marines. Within a week, there were major guerrilla uprisings in 8 major cities in the United States. and efforts to eliminate them have been futile. Several days of heavy rain, followed by a cool air mass moving down from Canada, broke the Chicago heat. The city lay under a bright, warm sun, and at night there was a cool breeze from the lake. The birds began their southern journey, and the leaves of the cottonwood, poplar, and maple trees began to change color, some of them reluctantly releasing from the limbs to trace a lazy descent to the ground, to be gathered and burned at the curb and produce a pungent smell of autumn come to Chicago. At night, the city silence will be broken by the explosions of grenades, the staccato message of automatic fire. The FF moved easily and silently through the ghettos, which offered them affection and support. Their colorations finally protective. The curfew had silenced the streets below, and a cleansing breeze from the lake stirred through Freeman's apartment. Miles Davis, mute meeting Mike, in a sexless kiss, blew bittersweet chocolate tones through the speakers. My Funny Valentine, becoming a pungent poem of lonely love. Freeman and Joy sat on the couch, the lights low, the dish in the sink, an empty wine bottle in the trash, slowly sipping their drinks, and Miles in the room, broing, black and beautiful, saying his things on his horn. In the sudden silence, as the record changed, Freeman turned to Joy. Joy, he asked, what's bugging you tonight? Those damn freedom fighters, as they call themselves. You can't go to a cocktail party nowadays without running into someone who has lost his integrated job. My husband, she said with bitter sweetness, has lost his staff appointment at the hospital, and he was the only Negro doctor in the white hospital in the city. What did he have to do with the riots? That's the point. Decent, innocent people are suffering. Now they want to get rid of me at the store. I can smell it. They can't let you go, baby. You're the best looking buyer with any department store in the loop. It's nothing to joke about. She took a long swallow of her drink. People are losing jobs they worked and sacrificed to get, all because of ignorant niggers who know nothing but hate. Freeman rose to put another record on the changer, and John Coltrane's Saffroni sax gave an oriental flavor to My Favorite Things. Can't you remember, Joy, how it was to live like they do? Don't offend those hoodlums, those freedom fighters. She spat out words in contempt, are shooting real guns. Didn't figure to take long before some of them realized there's no win in throwing a brick at a man with a gun. Joy took a slow sip of her drink, watching him carefully over the rim of her glass. Dan, she asked quietly, are you mixed up in this? Baby, you got to be kidding, he laughed. You think I'm stupid enough to get involved in a scene like that? They don't stand a chance. You used to talk about this kind of thing when we were in East Lansing. You insisted when everything else failed, Negroes will have to fight. Honey, he said reasonably, I was a kid in college then, and besides, everything else hasn't failed. We're both examples of the kind of progress Negroes have made in the last few years. She searched his face for some clue, and he told her what she wanted to hear, calmed her, reassured her.
Look at all the Negroes we have in influential positions. a member of the presidential cabinet, a Supreme Court justice, a senator. And look at me. He smiled. His arm swept his Playboy pad. I've been poor, and believe me, this is better. Honey, she smiled. I've been silly. This thing has us all nervous and on the edge. She rose gracefully and walked to the door leading to the bedroom. She turned and took off her wig. Fix us some more drinks while I get comfortable. And with a smile, she turned and walked into the bedroom. Freeman smiled with some relief. It had been close for a while, but he was sure he had convinced her. A short time later, lying bathed in sweat, her head on his shoulder, he was certain. It was hot the next afternoon, but the thick walls of the police precinct station made it cool and comfortable inside, and the desk sergeant sat, oblivious to the station smells, working the crossword puzzle in the Chicago Tribune. The door opened, and a bit of the hot day outside followed a woman who seemed immune to the heat. She walked to the sergeant's desk, much like the models he had been displaying fashions on televisions and in the newsreels. She wore a small white hat, white gloves, and a pale green summer suit of shantung silk. Excuse me. The sergeant could not identify the material, but he knew it was expensive. So he spoke to her with far more respect than was usual for the colored woman who normally entered his domain. Yes, lady. Can I help you? I want to speak with someone, she replied. About Uncle Tom. That evening, Freeman, entering his lobby, found a coded message in his mailbox. It was from one of his double agents on the police force, indicating the police planned a shakedown of the block in which the FF had one of its armed caches. Because there was not much time, he ignored telephone security and hurrying to his apartment, he phoned from his bedroom, the room lit only by the light in the hallway. Daddy, Turk, listen carefully. The fuzz are shaking down the block where we have a stash. Safe House 3. Move it right away to Safe House 6. Cancel tonight's hit if you have to, but get that stuff moved and check back with me. He hung up, and light burst into the room from the floor lamp in the corner. In one motion, Freeman whirled, dropped to the floor next to the bed, and reached for the pistol he kept beneath the pillow. But the gun was not there. Freeze, Freebie, ordered Dawson. Or should I call you Uncle Tom? He sat in a serene wound chair next to the teak floor lamp. His service, Smith & Wesson, 38 police positive, held with ease, competence, and resting on the right knee of his crossed leg. The heat's not under the pillow. I have that one. And the rest you have stashed here. You got quite an arsenal for a playboy. That how you get so much trim? Uncle Tom? Not me, baby. You trying to put me on? And suddenly indignant? What the hell you doing in my pad, pointing a gun at me? I hope you got a search warrant, man. Martial law, remember? I don't need a warrant. Now you fuck can continue to do what you always have to have in the ghetto, only for a change. It's legal. That must take all the kicks out of it. Freeman, his eyes on those of Dawson, began to rise carefully. He had fired on the police range with Dawson. He knew what he could do with that revolver. Like I said, Freebie, freeze. Dawson rose from his seat, the gun never wavering. Okay, now stand up very slow and keep your hands where I can see them. Good. Now walk over to that wall. Hands as high as you can reach, flat against the wall. You know the drill. Now hold it and don't move. Freeman stood, his weight on his hands flat against the wall and to either side of the Sashio wood block he had purchased in Tokyo. Dawson approached him, deftly searched him, then retreated slowly to the wound chair. Okay, you can sit on the bed. Freeman walked slowly to the bed and seated himself as close to Dawson as he dared. Man, you sure had my nose open, Freebie. Out of all the people in Chicago, I never figured you for Uncle Tom. Cool, Dan. Cool Dan Freeman, the Southside Playboy. Nothing on your mind except chicks, clothes, good whiskey, and sports cars. A beautiful cover, now that I think about it. You think I risk it all for this? Save it. I don't know if you are or if you're not Uncle Tom, and it's not my job to decide. I have enough evidence to take you in, and that's what I'm going to do. What evidence? This reel of tape I found here. One of Uncle Tom's propaganda broadcasts you cats run all over the neighborhood from booby trap recorders.
I don't know anything about that. You know, right up until I found this, I didn't believe it. Didn't even bother to bring my partner along. After I searched the place, I was going to wait for you and apologize for having to check out the lead. That's mighty white of you. Who's the white man running things? How come there's got to be any old fade running things? You know, the Communist Party in the States is like any other white scene. A few showpiece spades in the name of integration, but Whitey's calling the shots. And of course, a spade couldn't possibly have done this on his own. Don't put me on, Dawson, laugh. Don't put me on, Dawson, laugh. The FBI detached working on this thing says it's the most sophisticated underground in the Western Hemisphere, the creation of an expert. And there sure ain't no spade experts. Are there, Sergeant Dawson? Expertise is a white man's monopoly. They got a patent on it. You sure are brainwashed. Well, I got news for you. It's a spade scene. A spade scene, dig? You think because you made a career out of kissing Whitey's ass, every black man is in the same bag? You're not going to bag me with name calling. You don't look so swinging on the wrong end of this gun. Makes you a big man, don't it? A gun, a badge, and a honey license for niggers, issued by Mr. Charlie. I found a long time ago, big time, out there in those streets, that there are the people who get their heads whipped and the people who do the whipping. And it didn't take long to figure out which I was going to be. You're a fucking hypocrite. All that shit about helping your people, you want it both ways, to be super cop and have spades dig you too? Well, you can't be a cop without betraying your people, and you can't be with your people without betraying your badge. He hit Dawson in his soft spot, desperately hoping he could recruit him. And you think you're going to change the system one man? There's no changing this system, not in our lifetimes, and maybe never. And the only way to make it is to get the best spot you can find. I don't want to change the system. Just get it off my back. I'm no fucking integrationist. Integrate into what? Whitey's welcome to his chrome-plated shit, pal. I dig being black, and the only thing I don't dig about being black is white folks messing with me. Who appointed you to savior our souls? Who appointed you the savior of souls? What makes you more sensitive than anyone else? You think nobody else feels the way you do? You think there aren't days when I want to smash every white face I see? Or are you the only black man with a sense of outrage? Use your outrage. Hit back. Join us, dogs. We got cats on the force, but nobody within. Join us. On the force, you don't stop at anything, do you? And you've been using the Cobras. Them tracks in their arms got to be phony. How could you get kids involved in a thing like this? Who am I going to get involved? Or says, who am I going to get involved? You? You're scared, shitless. You might miss a promotion, not qualified for a pension. Oh wait, it's still on me, huh?
Yeah, I got the next page.
Okay, you might miss a pension. We're a wasted generation, dehydrated by Whitey. I got to those kids before Whitey did. They're the only hope we have. How are the things you're doing any better than Whitey? How are you any better? Why should I be? I'll do any damn thing to be free. Yeah, I'm Uncle Tom. There ain't a damn thing nonviolent about me. Anything Whitey can do to keep me on my ass, I can do double to be free. And when I'm gone, there are others to take my place. I've heard enough. Let's go. Sure, man, cuff me. Freeman rose. Dawson still seated. And he held his hands forward for the handcuffs. Dawson reached for the cuffs in his back pocket, and as he did, the change of his weight and the foam rubber chair threw him off balance for a moment, and his gun barrel shifted. He sat in it. Freeman's eyes even. He sat in it for. Oh wait, dang! He sat in it. Freeman's eyes even before. Huh? Oh, sorry. Yeah. He saw it in Freeman's eyes even before he began to kick. And with the way of an athlete, Dawson compensated for his imbalance. Even as he moved further into the enveloping softness of the chair, he brought his gun up and fired without aiming. Freeman's kicks sent Dawson over backwards with the chair, the gun spinning away. But the shot had hit Freeman, a glancing blow in the side, half spinning him. Noticing that Freeman had been hit, Dawson moved for the weapon on all fours. But Freeman, recovering, kicked him again in the side, sending the gun slithering across the room on the nylon carpeting. Dawson turned on his knees towards Freeman with his arms crossed in front of his face in a judo defense, ready to block, parry, or grasp a flailing leg. Groggy, but still dangerous.
Freeman faked the kick, and when Dawson covered, chopped him hard on the junction of the neck with the edge of his hand. Dawson fell to all fours, and another kick turned him over. Freeman, moving in, chopped him hard on either side of his neck and grasping his collar with either hand, one crossed over the other. He applied pressure until the muscles of his arms ached from the strain. He released them and knew before he searched for a pulse that Dawson was dead. He squatted at the side of his dead companion, rocking back and forth on his heels. Shit, Dawes, shit. Why you, man? Why did you have to be you? Anybody else? Anybody? Abruptly, he stood, and when he looked at the dead body of his friend, his face was impassive, except for one fleeting moment. He walked to the phone and dialed. Daddy, this Turk. You get that stuff moved? Good. Get out to my place right away. It's condition red. And bring one of the big mail sacks. I got something for you to move. He walked to the bathroom and stripped to the waist to check the wound. It did not look good and was bleeding freely. He dusted it with sofa butter, placed the gauze compressed against it, and a thick towel over that. Returning to the bedroom, he put on a loose sports shirt and a cardigan. He checked himself in the mirror, and there was no telltale bulge. He walked to the living room and put a stack of records on the stereo and mixed a stiff drink. Then he sat down in the dark room to await the arrival of his lieutenants. Dawson was too good a cop not to report where he was going or check in when he could. When they found his body, Freeman's cover would be blown and probably that of the Cobras as well. The pain began to eat into him, and he thought that his cover might not matter anyway. A doctor would have to treat him, and there would be no first-class surgical facilities they could use if necessary. They would all have to go underground now. At least he wouldn't have to kill Joy to protect that cover. He called the doctor he had recruited and told him to come by a half hour before curfew. The doorbell rang, and he opened it to let in Daddy, Scott, Stud, and Pretty Willie. He motioned to the bedroom. In the bedroom, take it out and dump it somewhere. It's Dawson, said Dean. They crowded around the body. Not Dawson, said Stud. He's your main man. How could you kill Dawson? It would be like killing me, Daddy. And maybe one day you'll have to kill Daddy. Or Daddy you. Yeah, I killed him because he got in the way. Anybody who gets in the way has to go. Nobody counts until we are free. Did you think we were playing games? Killing people we don't know and doing it and don't dig? 40% of those paratroopers out there are black. It's a badge of honor for a black man to wear those wings. They soldiers and fight to earn what no man can earn, freedom. Dawson's one dead black generation, and you might be another. But at least you won't be dying an inch at a time. No more of Whitey's con man's integration games, freedom on the installment plan, interest collected daily, freedom now. No more begging, pleading, and silent suffering. Don't tell me who I kill or what it costs to do it. If you can't pay the dues, then get out. He paused, gazing at Dawson's body. They watched him in silence. He looked up abruptly, searching their faces in turn. He nodded in satisfaction. Condition red. All attack teams in the field nationwide. Hit them everywhere you can. Everywhere they're fat, smug, and complacent, use his strength and cockiness. Hit him, disappear, and hit him again. Hound, harassed, fuck with his mind. Keep getting him up and don't back down. Willie, I want you to take over the DC operation as soon as you can get there. Here's a phone number in Washington. Call her. Take her out. Buy her a drink for me. She drinks Johnny Walker Black Label. All right, move out. He motioned to the body. And take that with you. They stuffed Dawson's body in the mail sack and without a word left the apartment. Their thoughts on their fighting ahead. They're not boys anymore, Freeman thought, staring at the door of the apartment after they had left. They don't need me anymore. You grow up fast in the ghetto, and I helped them grow faster than most. I wonder how many of them will be alive or free this time next year. He poured himself a stiff drink and thought that the doctor wouldn't be much of a help. Hours later, he sat in the darkened living room listening to the first of the shooting, the rapid crackle of automatic weapons, the spit of rifles, the explosion of grenades. The firing grew in intensity in counterpoint to the music. Lady Day singing, God Bless the Child. He sipped his drink and listened. Say it, baby, he said out loud. Sing it like it is. God bless the child that's got his own. Go on, you black ass cobras. Go get your own. Freeman smiled, and the pain didn't matter anymore. In fact, for the first time in many years, he hardly hurt at all. And that concludes the book, The Spook Who Sat by the Door, the novel written by Sam Greenlee. Man, that was just it ended so similarly, and it was expected to because the Sam Greenlee was over the movie as well. But man, that's crazy how fast things change. You know what I'm saying? They was right on their way, but then old girl went to the police, and his mans came, had to kill his mans, but his mans ended up they basically ended up killing each other. You know what I'm saying? They basically ended up killing each other. Two friends from high school, two sides of the same coin, and they both knew that something had to be done in their neighborhood. And they were the two best people to get shit done. And the climate that was created, not by them, but the climate that was created and that they lived in and served under, ended up killing them both. This story was in some ways academics will call this story Shakespearean. You know what I'm saying? The irony of how it all played out, and they both killing each other. You know what I'm saying? Thank y'all for listening to us on the replay, coming into the chats, and listening to us. I'm glad that Brother Reggie Owens was able to be here the whole time. I'm a tag team partner in this, so we can go back and forth on this dope ass story. I hope that y'all click that like button. I hope that y'all who coming in here listening on the replay hit that subscribe button and wait for the next book. I think I'm gonna be just reading the books that I feel like reading for the time being, but I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start taking using my channel to do like polls on some of the books that I have, take some pictures of them and whatnot, and then try to figure out how I'm gonna post it and do like a survey or something like that. Maybe on my on my Instagram channel. I don't know. I'm gonna figure it out. But I do want to read some more books. I had a blast reading. I do like reading a lot, and I have several books that I find interesting, whether they're books about information or books like this that are fictional stories. And you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna let y'all go on this journey with me and check out some of the books that I like to read and that I own. And hopefully, you know what I'm saying, y'all can get the books, join in with me. And if not, y'all can do like y'all just did and just sit back and listen and enjoy the book readings. But as far as the Spook Who Sat by the Door, such a great novel, such a great movie, and such great lessons within the story arc overall. And I want to get my brother Reggie Owens' take on it. But if anybody in the chat that wanted to jump in and talk about it, let me know if y'all want to do that. Since we come to the end of the book, if y'all want to jump on the panel real quick and say just something real quick. And otherwise, you know what I'm saying, after Reggie say what he's gonna say, we just gonna get out of here and be on to the next one.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Man, oh man, what a way for the story to unfold, man. And I just knew something was up the minute where he got the phone call from the young lady, and that the tell was broken. And sometimes those who are closest to you that unfold the whole details to a plot that you put together. And even the system itself couldn't figure it out. None of the great intelligence agencies can figure out who this is part of. Many of them overlooking a black man having the intelligence to put together such a high level plan that only an expert could go about doing that. And only experts were white. And then for these people with the closest attachments to them are the ones that breaks the cover, especially the hoe, who she's just out there, she swing from pole to pole, wherever the money blows, that's where she's at. And I mean, man, what a way for this to kind of twist around like that. And then for his friend to come in there and he's going to turn him in. People they pick and choose which side of the law that they're on. Not to say that one is right and one is wrong from the other, but that's kind of the thought on, is it wrong for what Dawson did, or was Dawson in the right and Freeman not being in the wrong at all? So it's kind of a balance on which side of thought that you stand on when it comes down to this. But that's the cold twist in which this unfolds. And even the mindset of the young kid when they like, dang, man, he killed his best friend. Like, what is this? But then they understand this is bigger than us. And, that was just a crazy way for the story to unfold. But this is great writing, laid out very well, man, to put a story together like this. And I wonder what influenced him to create a story. Was this created out of his mind? Know the time period will lead you to think out these type of things. In the 60s and 70s were very volatile time periods within this country. So I imagine what went through the minds of people thinking of this is where the world really seems like it's just going to explode, seeming real volatile, even more volatile than what we experience today in the chaos that we see going on here, which really doesn't compare to what was going on back then. It's just happened to hit that kind of circular period of repeating itself in our current state. But this is a dope book, man. Very, very dope. But on to the next.
Yeah, like you said, man, great point about the influence of the time period that went into the creative process in creating a story like this. If you think about it, it's coming in the 70s and off of the backs of the 60s, and we know what happened in the 60s. You know what I mean? We have they call it the assassination era. You know what I mean? Where the decade of assassinations, where you have the president of the United States getting killed in the 60s. You know what I'm saying? You have his brother, who was on his way to becoming the president as well, Bobby Kennedy being assassinated. Then you have Malcolm X being assassinated. You have Martin Luther King being assassinated. You have Fred Hampton being assassinated. You got the mega era. You got all these situations going on. And in the 70s, you have, the takedown or the remnants of after taking down these leaders who people were galvanizing around, and that had to have some kind of influence on Sam Greenlee and the creation of this story in that regard, because you can feel the social political weight of the plot of this story throughout the book. They make a reference to James Bond, so the James Bond stories was out there, and those books were out there too, and so they kind of implement that in here, where you got Dan Freeman playing this suave, smooth double agent, and makes for a compelling story. And like Reggie was saying, once the horror came back into his life, unexpectedly, like he's like, man, how did she know that I was here and whatnot, and why would she go through all this trouble just to come, find me and track me down? He knew right away something was off, and that's why he went to turn the music up and try to fill her up for a wire or whatnot. But obviously she she went in there and took all his guns out his room and all that kind of stuff, and got him set up to get killed. Went to the precinct, and it was all downhill from there, because Rick said it best. She swing from pole to pole. That's another lesson in this is, you got to be careful who you not only who you spend time with, but also who you share information with when you feel like you have a purpose and a plan to do something. Everybody can't be in on your plans. Everybody can't be in on your purpose, and everybody doesn't. You shouldn't give access to your ideologies, because in the end, you never know who's out there to if they have a price that they'll pay to get rid of you. You know what I'm saying? Or that somebody who wants to get rid of you will pay to get rid of you. And just a compelling story, man, all the way around. So dope, so ironic. The irony of it, the friends killing each other, and the way the story ends is so dramatic that it just makes it even that much more compelling. But like Reggie said, we on to the next one. We're gonna bring y'all some books, whether they're informative or hit from a historical basis, or whether they're entertaining like this one. I just want to from time to time, bring up a different change. A lot of people go live for a lot of different reasons and do a lot of different things with their lives. So I want to change mine up too, and and do the same thing. With that being said, peace, blessings, and respects to everybody listening on the replay, everybody that tuned in, that came into the chat, that interacted, and everybody that be listening that don't interact at all. And of course, thanks to Reggie Owens for rocking with it from the get-go. Since I brought the idea, he was down to do it and was like, man, let's do that. You know what I mean? Read books sound good to me. And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that when he said it. I was just saying it off some old. When I go back and look at that video, actually, where that whole thing came up, because I recently watched it again, I was kind of saying it in response to somebody in the chat that I felt was trying to clown because I have books in my background.
Yeah, that was my cousin trying to clown.
Yeah. I knew it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's an LA thing. So I was like, oh yeah, well I'm gonna take this opportunity to be serious with it. You know what I mean? And then because that's how I do. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna be the butt of the joke. You know what I mean? I'm gonna turn it into my advantage. So let's go ahead and talk about it, since we got books up here. Woo, 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 woo. And then Reggie was like, well, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, oh shit, that made my little thing. It all worked out pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Let me go to some of these comments real quick. Brother Andrew Charles, who's been there from the get jump, his response was, wow. All right. We know Reggie with the salute. We got Mark Stearns in here. Good job. And necessary info. Yeah, the lessons in here is amazing. Ain't they, Reg?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
TB, Tom Brown in the building. Salute to you, fam. Mike said, facts, infiltration is real. Yeah, that's how all the damn movements got taken down. You know what I'm saying? On any side, from any people throughout the world, anybody that's trying to plan something, you know what I mean? It don't have to be anything revolutionary. Anything you try to plan, you can try to plan a business. You let the wrong person know about your ideology and your plan for your business. If they don't want to see you successful, they'll put a monkey wrench in your shit.
Yeah, and that'd be, man, and the quickest way to infiltrate people, man, is in like Freeman's case, being a playboy and all that. A lot of it seems player, and sometimes you leak some of your darkest secret to those who you find the closest attachment, and being with the ease and calm that a woman brings, you share a lot of shit with them. And so you hear a lot of people doing pillow talking and all that other type of shit. They leak it. Even in the spy world, you deal with a lot of people work in the spy world. Sometimes you don't send agents who are single and try to be playboys. Usually they come from where they want people who are married, more secure in their life. And the whole thing is where you hear people, well, I can't share the secret or what my mission is or hide it from the family. It's for these facts here, because other counters to that shit is to send women at folks. You send a woman at a person, and the person's gonna release a lot of that shit to a woman. And the woman finds a way to your heart and shit, and bam, this how it unfold, man. Sometimes what they call a devil in the blue, a devil in the red dress, blue, whatever the color the dress is, they can infiltrate the minds, man.
Big facts, great point. Great point. Hey, that's right. Today was like devil in the blue dress, but in this case, it was she had a red dress on, and it reminds me of a movie that most of us have watched called The Matrix, and Morpheus is taking Neo through a simulation, and he's explaining to him what's going on. He's explaining to him the severity of the situation and the sophisticated way that agents infiltrate their movement, as they are basically freedom fighters trying to fight for their right to be free as people and not as slaves to the system that they're in. And as they're walking down the street in the simulation, you know, with people passing them by as they come and go, the simulation has for a woman to walk by in what, Reggie? A red dress.
Yeah.
And Neo takes a peek at her while Morpheus is explaining what he's explaining for a split second, and then he looks back at Morpheus, and Morpheus says, were you listening to me, or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? And Neo turns around trying to explain, well, yeah, no, I was just, and he turns back around, and it's an agent. The woman in the red dress is now an agent with a gun in his face. And he says, freeze it. Anybody that's not connected with us, anybody that's not already unplugged, anybody that's not with us is a possible agent. And he explains it just that way. And that was a great breakdown that you just did, Reggie, because it reminds me of that scene in that movie.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But yeah, man, great story. It even leaves it open to, like, you can imagine, because it was all set up for it to continue, no matter if one of them died or not, you can continue to spread it. And I would think that eventually, of course, it probably came crashing down, but in their world, in the alternative world, let's say, because we know how things are now in 2021, but in the alternative world, it would like to have seen that continue to keep going. You know what I mean? But like they say, sometimes once you cut off the head of the snake, the body is what it is. You know what I'm saying? The body withers away. And Andrew Charles says, I enjoy it. Let's keep reading. You damn right. And so on that note, peace to everybody. Once again, thank y'all for coming in, tuning in. And we'll get y'all on the next book reading.
Yes, sir. Peace, peace.
I wrote the book in 1966, and the film was made in 73. And here we are 30 years later, And I think it's every bit as powerful, if not more so, than it was when I first did it.
I'm gonna name my last album "The Spook" that sat by the door. You know what I mean? When I finished my situation with our partnership at Atlantic, and for anybody that ain't seen that book, seen that movie or read the book, it's about a gang member from Chicago who presented himself in a way he never caught no cases. He had a clean cut look, and he infiltrated the CIA.
Yep.
And he became educated and basically he used their agenda, which was to have a token nigga in the CIA for political reasons. You know, we gonna speak blunt, fuck it. He used it against him. And I think that in terms of hip hop, you think of the message that they embrace, I feel parallel with, like, you know what I mean, the power structure. I don't mean the culture of hip hop, but the power structure of music. They got prescribed personas they expect from us. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the way he used their intention against him was one of my underlying strategies.
I wouldn't give a damn if nobody white ever read my book. If they do, I want them to pay for it and get my royalties. And if they get something out of it, I say, fine. But my audience is not white. I don't write for black bourgeois intellectuals. I write for the people on the block where I live.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me.
The Spook, who sat by the door. The controversial best-selling novel now becomes a shocking screen reality. The story of the first black agent in the CIA.
Whoever they select will be the best-known spy since 007.
Their first mistake was letting him in.
And let me congratulate you on being the first Negro officer in the Central Intelligence Agency.
Their worst mistake was letting him out.
You really want to mess with Whitey? I can show you how.
For 5 years, he was their token Negro.
Freeman, you people must serve.
For 5 years, he kept his cool.
Man, you just don't belong. I think you'd be happier with a mop in your hands. Like your mama.
And in return, they taught him how to spy, how to fight, how to kill. For 5 years, he was the spook who sat by the door. And then he turned gangs of ghetto kids into a highly trained guerrilla army.
We live off the land. We match technology with spontaneity and improvisation. Men against machines, brains against computers. Now, if you don't think it can work, you check out Algeria, Kenya, Korea, and Iran. Can you dig it?
He turned a summer riot into a revolution.
This is not about hate white folks. It's about loving freedom enough to die or kill for it if necessary.
He turned the American dream into a nightmare. Yesterday, a novel. Today, a movie. The Spook who sat by the door.
And the mayor's office is now air-conditioned, courtesy of the Black Freedom Fighters of Chicago.
I want people to think. And out of thought, concerned action. You don't act first and then think. You think first and then act. That's why we were given brains. That's why we don't act instinctively. And when we do, we're wrong. Whichever way they go, I want them to think about what I've had to say. I'm not trying to recruit anybody. I'm not trying to proselytize. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I want to shake up the mind. I want people to look at that movie and go out of there thinking. And I think I've accomplished that purpose.